to back going into the preview song.
Oh, yeah, I heard some drumsticks. Cool.
And
Thanks.
then we'll have the worship intro just like normal and count them in from there.
Thank you.
First song's Prodigals. Brandon is leading that, and then Emma will take over on that second song. She'll intro that. So cameras just in the back of your head, just be ready for those. I'll try to call them out as I can in preparation, but I might miss one or two. So just be on the spot too.
Audio's recording.
All right, everybody, we're on schedule for an on-time departure in 47 seconds.
What's the weather like where we're landing?
Where we're landing today is a balmy 55 degrees and rainy on this Father's Day. Please keep your arms, legs, hands, and other body parts inside the plane at all times.
Anticipating a smooth ride in, though. All right, man, we're going to go in less than 30 seconds here. Remember, we've got those two videos.
There's the announcement video, and then there's a little, like, don't stand up because this is the preview song video.
Yeah. All right, team, we're going to go in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go video.
That little one of me with a red shirt is the next video. It's only 15 seconds long.
Yeah, hopefully I won't have to rush through my countdown.
Okay, camera 4, can you grab me that red electric guitar?
It's amazing how many people come early.
Yeah, it should be on right now.
Hey, I'm Craig Rochelle, and I'm so excited to invite you to join me this year at the Global Leadership Summit. You may say, who is the Global Summit for? Well, it's for anyone who wants to grow in their leadership. And what I know about you is that you can make a big difference wherever you are. And I know that you have someone who's influenced you, and you can do the very same thing by inviting someone else to join you this year at the Global Leadership Summit. What do we know about the summit? The Global Leadership Summit is affordable, it's accessible, it's applicable, and it's absolutely mission critical because your leadership matters more today than ever before. Please join me and people from all over the world on August the 3rd and the 4th this year. Sign up at globalleadership.org or through your church. Hope to see you there.
All right, next video is in 30 seconds. Next video in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go video.
Hey Journey, we're in a series called Find My People.
All right, team, here we go in
where
10,
we're studying what Jesus
9,
said about the value
8,
of friendship
7,
and how important
6,
friendship is to the heart of
5,
God. So the
4.
band's going to kick things off with a song about friendship. Check this out.
Okay, tip down to a little. I'm ready. I'm not getting 4 for some reason. It's black.
Really?
Yep, ready.
Said what's wrong, my longtime friend. Something's bothering you. Tell me what the problem is. I'll see what I can
Replug it
do.
in, it's on, everything's on.
There are times
I'll come up
we
there.
disagree. We agree more than we don't.
Restart
We
the camera.
won't always see eye to eye.
Anything?
But we will
Nothing
more
yet. I'll let you
than
know
we
if I
want.
see it.
We got friendship The kind that lasts a lifetime.
Oh, got
Through all
good.
the hardship, you know you're a
Okay,
friend
ready?
of mine.
ready camera.
We got friendship,
Take.
the kind that lasts a lifetime. Through all the hardship, you know you're a friend of mine.
All right, I'm gonna pull off the "Please Be Seated"
On
off
the
now.
street,
Okay.
I'll take your hand.
Go for it.
If you're hungry, I'll give you food. If it's money you need, I got some say. If you're sick, I'll visit you.
Ready 7.
I've been where you are right now. You saw me through it all. I'll lean on you, you can lean on me. I'm never gonna let you fall. 'Cause we got friendship, the kind that lasts a lifetime. Through all the hardship, you know you're a friend of mine. Yeah, we got friendship,
Ready.
the kind that
6.
lasts a lifetime.
Ready 5.
Through all the hardship, you know you're a friend of mine.
Ready 1. I can stand for it actually. Ready 1. And take.
Talk to me, old pal of mine. If you feel
Ready,
you
7.
can go on.
And take.
Don't you sweat, it ain't over yet. This bond we share is strong. Now your welfare is my concern. You weigh less than you think. I'll carry you through the thicket sand. See if I let you sing. 'Cause we got friendship, oh, the kind that lasts a lifetime. Through all the hardship, you know you're a friend of mine. Yeah, we got friendship, the kind that lasts a lifetime.
Ready 5.
Through all the hardship, you know you're a friend of mine. Yeah, we got friendship, the kind that lasts a lifetime.
Ready 7.
Through all the hardship, you know you're a friend of mine. Through all
We're gonna go
the
video here after
hardship,
this.
You know you're a friend of mine.
Ready 4. And take.
And go video.
So Brandon's gonna lead this one. Camera 1, get ready to grab. He's gonna say something.
All right, team, we're going to go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
Okay, 1.
Good morning, Journey. Welcome. We're excited to have you with us. Happy Father's Day. If you'd stand, if you're in the room, join us. Let's prepare our hearts. Let's sing out and worship.
5. And take. Ready 7.
You know I had my doubts. I thought the fire went out, but the old winds are blowing, blowing again. You know I lost my way, and I'm sure I will again someday. But there's a whisper calling, calling again. This is the sound of a child coming home. Hallelujah. This is the song of a welcome prodigal. Hallelujah. to come. There is no fear in perfect love. For those who don't know where to start, He always meets us where we are. For those with just a little faith, a little faith is all it takes, and He's calling. He's calling. If you got caught up in religion's game, let Him show you the real thing. 'Cause the skeptic's still in search of truth. He'll bring that child out of you. So what are you still waiting for? He's standing at an open door, and He's calling. He's calling. He's calling. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. This is the sound of a child coming home. Hallelujah. This is the song of a welcome prodigal. Hallelujah. This is the sound of a child coming home. Hallelujah. This is the song of a welcome prodigal. Hallelujah. I thought I was too far gone, but You always leave the light on. Praise God. Praise God. Praise
Remember,
God. Yes, I will.
Remember, we've got
Praise
Emma
God.
entering the next song.
Praise God. Praise God. I'm coming home. Coming home.
And take.
Whew, I'm out of breath after that.
Ready, 7, and take.
This next song we're going to sing is a new song. It's called I Witnessed It. And if I could use one word to describe the song, it would be hope. The song is
Ready, 4.
such a hopeful song, and it talks
and
about
take.
how we just can proclaim the goodness we've seen God do, the good works He's done, just the effort He puts into even just letting us in on the things that He's doing. We get to witness it. And, you know, people all over the world, they worship different gods for various reasons. And for me, I've had people ask me why I choose to worship the God of Abraham, the God of David, my God. And the unique thing about my
Ready,
God,
2,
about our
and
God,
take.
is how unique He is in wanting to be so relational, and He's so engaged with each and every one of us one-on-one. We don't see that anywhere else. And just the fact that He's willing to, one of the lyrics says, He left the
Ready,
throne
7,
and chose the cross.
And
Who
take.
does that unless there's just a great love that we cannot possibly understand? So I invite you to join us in worshiping us in this next song, and just reflect on the good works you've seen God do in
Ready,
your own life,
1,
in the lives
and
around you,
take.
and just allow God's overwhelming love and hope to fill you up.
Ready, 6, and take. Ready, 2, and take.
When I was lost and all alone, your presence was
Ready, 7,
where I found home.
and
You
take.
were there and you're here right now. In every high and every low, you never left me without hope. You were good and you're good right now. I've witnessed your
Ready, 1,
faithfulness.
and take.
I've seen you breathe life within, so I'll pour out my praise again. You're worthy, God, you're worthy of all of it. Your promises never fail. I've got stories I'll live to tell. left the throne and chose the cross, laid down your life to rescue us. The Savior then, the Savior now.
Ready, 7, and take.
But even death was not the end. You conquered hell so I could live. Resurrecting then, resurrecting now.
And take.
Resurrecting then, resurrecting now. I've witnessed your faithfulness. I've seen you breathe life within. So I pour out my praise again. You're worthy, God, you're worthy of all of it. Your promise is never fail. I've got stories I'll live to tell. So I pour out my praise again. You're worthy, God, you're worthy of all of it. My God, you're worthy of all praise. We'll sing for our days. You're good and I've
Ready, 1,
witnessed it.
and take.
You're strong and I've witnessed it. You're constant, I've witnessed it. And I'm confident I'll see it again and again. You love and I've witnessed it. You heal and I've witnessed it.
Ready, 7,
You save and I've witnessed it. And I'm confident I'll see it again and again. You're good and I've witnessed it.
and take.
You're strong and I've witnessed it.
And take.
You're constant, I've witnessed it. And I'm confident
And
I'll see it again and again. You love and I've witnessed it.
ready, 7,
You heal and I've witnessed it.
ready, 2,
You save and I've witnessed it. And I'm confident
ready, 5,
I'll see it again and again. I've witnessed your faithfulness. I've seen you breathe life within. So I pour out my praise again. You're worthy, God, you're worthy of all of it. Your promises never fail.
ready, 7,
I've got stories I'll live to tell. So I pour out my praise again. You're worthy, God, you're worthy of all of it. To the broken, I've witnessed it. To the hurting, I've witnessed it. To the lost, I will witness it. And I'll tell them this. I'll tell them what I've witnessed. To my family, I've witnessed it. To my city, I've witnessed it. To the nations, I'll witness it. And I'll tell them this. I'll tell them what I've witnessed. I'll keep praising you, God, for all you've done for me, for my family, for the people around me, God. I'll keep singing your praises
and take.
so that
Ready, 7,
everyone will hear
take.
you. Oh God, 'cause I've witnessed your faithfulness.
Ready, 1, and take.
I've seen you breathe life within, so I'll pour out my praise again. You're worthy, God, you're worthy of all of
Ready,
it.
6,
Your promises never fail.
and take.
I've got stories
Ready,
I'll
2,
live to tell, so
and
I'll
take.
pour out my praise again.
Ready,
You're
7.
worthy. God,
Remember,
you're
Brandon starts this next song, but Emma also leads.
Okay, camera 1, go ahead and grab Brandon. I'm on 7 right now. Ready to and take. Ready, 6 and take. I'm taking the red too.
I've been strong and I've been broken within a moment.
The haze looks really good with the red and blue.
I've been faithful and I've been reckless at every bend. I've held everything together and watched it shatter. I've stood tall and I have crumbled in the same
Yeah, it looks
breath.
really good on the screens.
2.
I have wrestled and I have
Ready, 5.
trembled towards surrender.
Ready, 2.
Chased my heart adrift and drifted home again. Plundered blessing till I've been desperate to find redemption. Every time I turn around, Lord, you're still there. I was found,
Take.
for I was lost. I was yours, for I was not.
It is not a big deal. I just want to let you know that it wasn't.
For all my mistakes, that part just breaks me.
No, I don't deserve this kind of love. Somehow, this kind of love is who you are. It's a grace I could never write up to be somebody you still want. But somehow, you love me as you find me.
Ready, 5 and take. Ready,
Who
7.
am I to think your glory needs my praises?
Such a good shot.
If this borrowed breath is yours, Lord, take it all. You are faithful and you are gracious, and I'm just grateful.
Ready, 1.
Think you don't need a single thing, still you want my heart. I was found, for I was lost. I was yours, for I was
Ready, 4
not.
and
Wear the scars for all my mistakes.
ready, 7.
That part just wrecks me.
No, I don't deserve this kind of love.
No, I
Somehow, this kind of love is who you are.
Sorry, someone came down the aisle
Grace I
at me.
could never add up
Don't
to
they see
be
your phone?
somebody you still want. But somehow, you love me as you find me.
Yeah,
5.
love me as you find me. Oh, now.
Ready, 4.
Love me as you find your love's too good to leave me here. Love me as you find Somehow, this kind of love is who you are. It's a grace
Remember, Brandon's gonna seat them, and then we'll go into the video.
to be somebody you still want.
Stay where you're at.
Somehow, you love me as you find me.
Ready, 6.
Love me as you find
Ready,
me.
7. Take. Ready, 1. And
Please have a seat.
All right, let's go video.
Happy Father's Day, everyone. Welcome to Journey's Sunday gathering. You're going to love what's about to happen. For Father's Day this year, we're going to have a little Hot Wings episode with hot questions and even hotter wings. And this week, I'm interviewing our next-gen pastor, Logan Holloman. Logan's been on staff here at Journey since 2021. And he's been in youth ministry for over 10 years, starting in West Virginia. Logan and his wife Kayla have one son, Forrest, with another one on the way
Yeah,
in October.
Yeah.
Logan, welcome to our Father's Day Hot Wings episode.
Thanks, Brandon. I wish I could say it was a pleasure to be here, but let's do this thing.
These wings are gonna get hotter as we go.
All right.
Neither of us are really good with hot
Yeah.
sauce.
No, I wouldn't say. I'm born to be mild, I would say.
We got this first one, which is the Heartbeat hot sauce. You might feel your heartbeat a little more after eating
Okay,
this, but
all right. Taste the pineapple. Nice day on the beach in Bahamas or something.
yeah. You played college basketball.
Mascot in high school was an apple, actually.
That was your high school mascot.
Yeah, we were the Fighting Applemen. Or people would say, we're gonna make applesauce out of you.
Oh,
A lot of that, or like smash the apples, a lot of that stuff.
you also have like a squirrel story from West Virginia.
Yeah, I grew up squirrel hunting with my granddad.
Okay.
And, I remember I thought I'd hit one, and we went to retrieve it from the field, and almost like in a cartoon or something, my granddad was like, "Where is it?" And it was like right behind his head, and I was like, "It's right there." And like he just turned around, and just shot the tree, just right there. Just blew the squirrel away, the tree, and I'll just never forget him turning around and being like, "That still counts," and he just kept walking, and I was just like, "That's my granddad. Like I love him to death."
What is your favorite squirrel dish?
Squirrel pot pie, or
Okay.
like a squirrel stew kind of.
It's like a dark meat.
Yeah, it's just like a chicken thigh.
Yeah.
What's this one?
Los Calientes.
Rojo.
There you
Okay.
go.
Cheers. Here we
Cheers.
go. That's not bad.
No.
Just tickles the tongue just a little bit, but
Yeah.
not crazy.
After college, you worked for Youth for Christ.
Yeah.
And where were you?
Yeah, I was in the UK, so primarily in England, but it's sports ministry.
So, see, like right there.
Right.
I'm already.
I'm starting to feel like my mouth's salivating already.
Yep. Now, what were you doing in England?
Yeah, so kind of like missionary by day, basketball player by night. So I did I actually played for a local team. So
Oh, okay.
So I got to kind of participate in that, which was fun, but I also did a lot of coaching with that too.
You had a buddy that helped you sometimes.
Yeah, maybe one of my most embarrassing days, Brandon, as a coach, I'd say. So I met the team there. Jamie drove the bus, and the team files off in their uniforms, and all of a sudden I noticed that my assistant coach is wearing a uniform, and he's also wearing an American flag headband. And I immediately asked him, "Jamie, what the heck are you doing?" He's like, "Coach, we're down a guy." So I just shaved, and I think I can suit up as a player, because he had just graduated college, and he's like, "I think I can pass off as a high school guy." I was like, we can't do that." And he was like, "Coach, we don't have enough guys. We're gonna have to forfeit." And so I had to walk the sideline and talk to this other grown man coach and just say, "Hey, so I have a grown man trying to pass off as a high schooler." It's total walk shit. I was like, "Are you okay with that? Like, we'll lose, we'll forfeit, but at least we get a game." And he kind of crushed them. He started mix them up and go between the legs, and I
It
was
was like a little Billy Madison. Well, in honor of Jamie, I got these
"Oh, there we go."
for us. There you go.
Nice. Here we go.
This is the Chili Lengua de Fuego
De Fuego.
turmeric bomb. Yeah.
Okay. A little dry. Mm-hmm. Like kind of sucks the moisture out of my mouth a little bit.
That might be a good thing.
My voice is changing. What's happening? That one's sneaky. It comes back later. Okay. Whew. Okay.
This next one's about the same. Black garlic Carolina Reaper.
Now, I've heard of a Carolina Reaper, so.
Yeah, I don't think they're very hot.
They're not?
Mm-mm.
You don't think they're hot?
No, they're not too bad.
All right. Yeah, nose is starting to run now.
That's a good thing.
Okay.
Now you have a kung fu conversion story.
I came to know the Lord at a revival at my church where there was a traveling black belt martial artist. He did like a blindfold samurai sword routine.
Whoa.
And he like hurt somebody there. That was intense. And but the night that I came to the Lord, he set a giant block of cinder blocks on fire in our church, like on the stage.
Kind of like your mouth is.
Yeah, kind of like my mouth is on right now. And then he like karate chopped them and demonstrated like that was Jesus defeating hell and the grave and all that stuff, and had an altar call, and I definitely came down. Man, my tongue is on fire. He's getting fatter. Like, I don't know if that's possible. Like, I'm talking, but I feel like it's getting wider in my mouth or something. What's happening right now? I thought you said that wasn't bad.
It wasn't supposed to be.
Dude, you're like sweating your eyebrows right now.
I was in denial.
I'm just gonna, can I pour some? Just
Absolutely.
Here you go.
Thank you.
There you go.
Cosmic Disco Karma Sauce. Let's do this.
Here we go, man. Yeah, I don't like that, man.
Woo. All right. Last year was the worst one. Next. It's called The Bomb, Beyond Insanity.
Beyond Insanity? Is that what we are for doing this? 2 years in a row?
Yep.
Cheers.
All right. The Bomb.
I don't want to touch my lips. No, it's worse. Oh my God. I think we should call it poison control or something. Oh. Whoa! What is happening? Oh, I might need to step away. It's like everything is. Oh, it hurts.
That's what we're gonna have in the lobby for everyone to try.
The gift that keeps on giving. Whew. Okay, you ready?
Yeah, this is the last dab.
That's what they're gonna put on my tombstone.
Don't add too much, I would say.
I'm shaking, Brandon. I'm like legit shaking. So we're dabbing
Ready?
this?
Just a dab. It's
And
the
taking
last
just a little
dab.
bite? Like,
Yep, and then whatever you want.
I don't want any of this. I'm just like drooling. Like my son right now. I'm not teething. I'm just suffering.
Tell us about, like, one of the rewards for you of being a dad so far.
My son's getting that fun age where he's got a lot of personality now, and you know, when you get the age when you walk in the door and they're like excited to see you in the crib and stuff. That's special, man. That's just your little buddy, you know, and just what a blessing it is, and not to take that for granted.
Logan,
Yes.
you made it through the gauntlet.
Thanks, man. Whew, barely.
All 7.
Okay.
And the hot one, well done.
Thanks, man. Your turn, Journey.
Yes, we have Da Bomb for you in the lobby. For anyone that would like to try it,
beware.
It is hot, and I'm gonna try and put as much
Just a reminder,
on your
one
wings
more
as we
video
did
after
on
this
ours. So
in
happy
about
Father's Day,
24
Journey.
seconds.
Brian Preeby is gonna be teaching us today on our series on friendship called Find My People.
I'm listening. Sorry.
You gotta look at
I'm trying to lock in, dude. I'm hurting real bad.
You gotta look at me so I can talk.
All right, here we go.
Or else.
Oh, I hate this.
Alright, guys. Now that my ribs have stopped hurting from laughing so hard.
Okay. Ready, one. We're gonna come to
Go live in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go speaker.
I've been thinking all week, how do you follow that thing up? Like, seriously. I will give you an update. So behind the scenes, like literally all week, and I mean like every day, Brandon has just been, like he's been giggling like all day long.
There you go.
He walks around the offices and he just all of a sudden just
Yeah.
breaks out laughing, thinking about that experience with Logan. And Logan, I am here to tell you, Logan is alive and safe, although it was a little nip and tuck for a minute there. He was hurting pretty bad for a day or so. There may or may not be a deposit out back that is evidence of how painful that was for him. So, but it was good, and hopefully you enjoyed that. And happy Father's Day to all you fathers. So, I'm just going to jump in today. We are in week 5. We've been talking about friendship. Find my people. We've been talking about friendship, and as we talk about friendship, we've been a little bit more specific than that. We're looking at Jesus' life and the different relationships he had with people. And he had kind of the 75, where we would call those kind of acquaintances. They were around his life. They probably shared meal with him here and there. They were a part of his life, but there was a distance also there. There were the 12 disciples who we might label as friends. They were people that he was engaged with all the time and almost every day, and they were close to him. But there were still 3 guys among the 12, Peter, John, and James, that were really tight with Jesus. They were that deep friendship, that intimate circle that he had. And what we've been talking about is that level of friendship. We've been talking about how do you have those types of friends in your life? And we've kind of walked through some ideas behind that. The first idea we threw out was proximity. That if you want to have people that are deep friends in your life, that you've got to be in and around them. They've got to be a part of your life. They've got to be in your proximity day after day after day. And it's not that you can't have friends that are, across the country, or maybe you moved here from somewhere, or they moved somewhere else. But at the end of the day, if you really want to have that depth, you've got to have a consistent level of contact with them, and then we define that as proximity. If you then have proximity, you have the opportunity to have transparency. And we talked about transparency and the fact that when you are around someone all the time, you begin to see the stuff that's going on in their life. If you think about it this way, an acquaintance might come to dinner at your house and everything is pristine and beautiful, just like every other day. But someone who has a little bit of access to you, a little deeper access, they might show up at your house when it's a total disaster. They have a level of transparency they see in your life that others do not see. If you have transparency with someone, it opens the door to the possibility that you offer them the ability to provide accountability. Now, accountability can be scary, and so we limit the people in our lives that have the opportunity to keep us accountable. And what we do is when we get to a certain level of depth with someone, we might say to them, hey, what would you speak into my life about this? And you might speak into their life about something else. That creates a different level of depth. We don't do that with acquaintances. We don't ask acquaintances to come by and keep us accountable for whatever it might be. Where we are at today, though, is if you have proximity, if you have transparency, and then if you do have some accountability, it is almost inevitable that you will have some conflict. Because conflict comes when we open ourselves up to another person. Someone who is distant from us, we can have kind of this weird conflict, but it's not the same as someone who's close to us who harms us. They hurt us. They say the thing we don't want to hear, and we have to deal with that. And the challenge around conflict, as I see it, is I'm not sure everyone is equipped to handle it. Let me ask you a question. If you're in
in the audience, go ahead and raise a hand. If you're online, throw something in the chat, just a little hand or whatever it might be. But the question I have for you is this. Would you rate yourself, raise your hand, if you would rate yourself as I am awesome at dealing with conflict with those in my inner circle? Nobody? Yeah, exactly. A couple people have that skill or have that. How many of you would say, you know what, I would be in the camp that I would love to be better at dealing with conflict in and around the people close to me? And there go a lot of hands. And so that's what we're talking about today. That's why we're here, is to talk that through. And one of the reasons that I would say a lot of people are not equipped to handle conflict goes back to your family of origin. See, in all family units, conflict is handled differently. But there are two ways that conflict is handled generally in families far too often, and they're kind of the extremes. You see, there's a group of people that don't deal with conflict. They ignore it, they sweep it under the rug. It never happened, whistle past the graveyard, like we never deal with it. Doesn't mean it didn't happen, doesn't mean that there's not friction and conflict. It just means we're not gonna handle it, we're not gonna deal with it. Super common way that families deal with conflict. The other way that's on the other extreme that's really, really common is that families deal with conflict in a volcanic explosion of words and emotion and everything else, to the point that in many cases it becomes unhealthy. It actually creates more hurt. And so when you have these two extremes as kind of the normative way that people are exposed to dealing with conflict, what that means is we're not equipped. Like, we just haven't seen it played out in front of us well, time and time again, to the point that we feel like, okay, I can kind of imitate that. I can kind of do that myself. And so what I want to look at this morning is a passage, a couple of passages, but specifically conflict that erupts between Jesus and Peter. We're talking about those deep friendships, the people we want to be really close with. Well, that was Jesus and Peter. They were extremely tight. And if you read the Gospels, you see that Peter and Jesus had conflict. They had friction. It happened multiple times. It wasn't a one-off thing. And so as we study this, I want to take our principles from there. So John chapter 13 is where I'm going to start, and I'm just going to give you the background. John 13 is the Last Supper. And at the Last Supper, Jesus is laying out what's going to happen in the coming hours and day or day and a half. And Peter doesn't love it. I don't think any of the disciples probably loved it. But at some point, Peter kind of steps up and says something. And Jesus' response is, Peter, the way this is going to play out is tonight, not tomorrow or the next day, but tonight, you are actually going to deny me 3 times. You are going to basically go to the people that are accusing me, the people that will arrest me, and you're going to say, you know what? I don't even know that guy. I'm not even in relationship with that guy. And Jesus calls that out. Now, obviously, Peter doesn't think that's going to happen, and as we follow the narrative along, we get into John 18, where in fact Peter does just that. He has strangers, not even people that have relationship with him or have even authority over him. In fact, one of the strangers is a servant girl who has no status in society, who says to him, hey, don't you know that guy? Aren't you his friend? Aren't you in relationship? And Peter's like, no, man, I don't even know who you're talking about. Like, I don't know that guy at all. And so he actually lives out exactly what Jesus said he would do. And that brings us to the passage we really want to dive into, and that is John 21. So let me set the scene for John 21 for you. What happens in John 21 is Jesus is in Jerusalem and he goes up to Galilee. And Peter and some of the other disciples are already up in Galilee. And those guys, they were fishermen before they started to follow Jesus. And so what are they doing? They're back fishing. They're on the Sea of Galilee and they're fishing, and they fish all night long. And Jesus comes to the seashore and he makes them breakfast over the fire on the seashore. And he calls to them and tells them to come in. And we're going to pick the story up in verse 14. This was now the 3rd time Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. When he had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said, you know I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And he answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Now Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him a third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. Very truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and you went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, follow me. So in this passage, in this piece of scripture, we see two friends that are dealing with conflict. They're dealing with a break in their friendship and trying to figure out how to handle that. And I think there's 4 principles that we can pull from this that we can then use to be better equipped as we engage conflict with the people that are in and around us in our lives. So the first principle that I see is that you have to make the conversation safe. The conversation as you confront someone or you approach someone about conflict needs to be safe. It says in verse 14 that Jesus was now with Peter for the 3rd time. This is the 3rd time. What happened the first 2 times? Well, back in Jerusalem, right after the resurrection, Jesus appears to the disciples in a room. And Jesus chooses not to engage the conversation at that moment, probably his wisdom, but he chooses not to at that moment as the shock and awe of his resurrection descends upon the disciples. But a couple days later, he's back with the disciples. And this time, ironically, he does confront somebody. Thomas, he confronts Thomas for his doubt and his lack of faith. But he chooses not to address Peter at that moment. So now we're several days later, and we're in a different place. Think about what Jesus did to have this conversation with Peter. He traveled from Jerusalem to Galilee, probably the northern side of the sea near Capernaum, which, if you do that, that's a day or a 2-day journey. Now, wait, wasn't Jesus the one that was offended? Wasn't Jesus the one that was harmed? Yet he's the one who's pursuing Peter 40 miles away or whatever it is up in Galilee. Then he also knows that Peter and the guys have been out on the boat all night. They've been fishing, and so they're probably hungry. So he meets a very basic need as he goes to approach the conversation. He feeds them, and then he engages in the conversation at that point. And I think one of the things we can see in that is that Jesus, because he goes to such lengths to make sure this environment is safe for the conversation, that his motivation is to restore the relationship. And I think motivation is really critical as we assess, is the situation going to be safe or not? Now, to give you a practical skill, here's 3 questions you can ask yourself. As you attempt to enter a hard conversation, a difficult conversation, check your motives with these 3 questions. Number 1, what do I want for myself as a result of this conversation? What do I want for myself? Do I want restoration in the relationship? Or if I'm really honest with myself, do I really want a pound of flesh? Do I really want to take some vengeance out on this person? Because the reality is, when we enter those tense moments, it's not uncommon that that's our motivation if we're really being honest with ourselves. So we need to pause and say, what do I want out of this conversation? The second question to ask yourself would be, what do I want out of this conversation for my friend? It's not just about me, but what do I want for them? My motivation might be that I want them to understand the degree to which I'm hurting as a result of this. And that would be a pretty pure motivation. I can go into an environment and have a safe conversation if my motivation is I want to allow them to understand how I feel. But if my motivation isn't just how I want them to feel, but I want them to feel my pain, there's that just a little bit of difference that makes now a totally unsafe environment for that other person, because here you come to attack. Here you come to make them feel your pain. A third question I'd encourage you to ask yourself is, what do I want for this relationship? It's not just about me as an individual. It's not just about them as an individual, but what do I want for our relationship? Jesus shows us he wanted to heal the relationship. He wanted to restore the relationship. But it'd be very easy for me to be in a position where I want to hurt the relationship. And if so, I ought not have that conversation at that moment. It cannot be safe. When I was in the business world, I was in a kind of a tech sector thing, and we had tons of clients, literally thousands of clients. And I had really good friendships with many of them because I used to be peers with them in another time. And so I knew them well, they knew me well, we knew families. We had a friendship. Maybe not Peter, Jesus level friendship, but we had friendships. And they had lasted literally for decades. And because we were a tech company, there were times where, service would go down or things would happen and it would just create a problem. And because the software that we provided was so valuable to our clients, it really caused pain on their side. And I knew that because I'd been a client of the company before I came to work for it. But what was interesting to me is these friends would approach me in those times of hardship one of two ways, and it was really apparent how intentional they were about that. The one way was friends that had been dealing with their boss who had let them have it, and what they in turn wanted to do is they wanted to let me have it. And I'd pick up the phone, and the first 5 words were 4-letter words coming at me, and it was, go time, gloves are off. Not great for the friendship. Not great to create a safe environment of conversation. But there were other friends that were really intentional. I knew they were hurting. I knew their boss had just chewed them out too. And yet as they approached saying, you know how much this hurts. What can you do to help? We need help. And it was more of a plea and a desire to be in community and work together. And that is the difference between a safe conversation and one that you just want to walk away from because it's not safe. So the first tool that I would offer for you to deal with conflict among those that you're closest to is make the environment safe. Be highly intentional there. The second principle that I think we can pull from Jesus' example is that you need to speak directly. You need to speak directly. What did Jesus ask Peter? He said, do you love me? Why did he ask, do you love me? Because Peter had denied they even had relationship. He had broken that friendship in that way. Now, he didn't do it directly to Jesus, but Jesus knew he had done that. And so, for there to be restoration, Jesus had to address the issue at hand. He didn't skirt around it. He didn't talk, you don't see hey, how was the fishing today? Like, how'd that go? Was it good? He went right at it. He just said, Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you love me? He said it directly. Now, in our culture, when we talk about speaking directly, we are often tempted to succumb or do succumb to what some people have called the fool's choice. What is the fool's choice? The fool's choice is this, that when I need to confront someone or say something to somebody directly, the fool's choice says, I either have to be honest about what I want to say, or I have to be respectful. But I cannot be both. I either have to be honest, or I have to be respectful. Let me give you an example of how that could play out. My wife buys a new dress. She tries it on. She walks out and says to me, do I look fat in this? Now, I love the guys' palms get sweaty and they get a little nervous at that. The girls kind of chuckle like, haha, let's see what he handles here. But that's the question at hand. Do I look fat in this? If I adopt the fool's choice of 100% truth, my answer is going to be, yeah, you look like a tank. Oh, that wasn't good, obviously. Fellas, you got that, right? Like, we're not supposed to say that. But that's the reality, right? If I choose to be honest but not respectful, that's a reasonable answer. But equally bad, if I choose to be respectful but not honest, I might say something like, yeah, you look good. When in fact, she does not look good. When in fact, she's going to go out and her friends are going to tell her she doesn't look good. And so you see the quandary. If I am honest but not respectful, or respectful but not honest, I have made the fool's choice as I've dealt with conflict. So how would I do both? How could I possibly say, I am going to be fully honest, but I'm also going to be very and fully respectful? And the way that might play out is I might say to my wife, you have several other dresses in your closet that I think are significantly more flattering than the one you have on. See, I've said the dress doesn't look great, but I've done it in a way that I've honored her and respected her well, right? And so as we engage conflict, we want to speak directly. We want to be candid. We want to be honest, but honest at the cost of respect is not acceptable. And nor is just ignoring the problem and not dealing with it the way to handle it either. And Jesus shows us that. He is both honest and respectful to Peter. I love how Proverbs 27:6 says this. It says, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. You see, someone who really doesn't have your best interests at heart, they will be either honest or they will be respectful, but they will not be both. But a friend will tell you the hard thing, but they will do it in a way that is honoring and respectful to you. So, first two principles. Number one, we want to make an environment that is safe as we engage in a hard conversation. But two, we also want to be direct as we communicate, and we want to be both honest and respectful as we do it. Principle number three that I see Jesus giving us the example of is we have to, as the conflict unfolds, move to the place where we forgive. We have to forgive the offense. Why does Jesus ask Peter 3 times, do you love me? He asked it 3 times because Peter committed 3 offenses. He denied Jesus 3 times. He is associating forgiveness with each of the offenses Peter committed. Now, forgiveness is something I want to take just a second to pause and talk about, because I think there's some misnomers in and around what does forgiveness actually mean. I believe forgiveness has 2 components. One is a decision, and one is a promise. Let's talk about the decision first. When I choose to forgive someone, that is 100% in my control and my authority. Nothing they do should have an impact on my decision to forgive them. So if someone offends me and they continue to offend me, it is still my choice whether or not I forgive. Right? Even if I'm still hurt, I can choose to forgive should I want to. Likewise, that idea of my decision comes with a promise. And this is a place where I think we as Christians need to make sure we are clear what it means when we say to someone, I forgive you. Because I think we sometimes don't treat that with the amount of significance that we should. When I forgive someone, I also make 3 promises that all deal with what I'm going to do with that. The first promise I make is, I will not bring up your offense with you in the future. That what can happen is, I say I forgive you, right? But then later it's like something similar happens. I'm like, you remember the time, right? And that means that in here, I probably really haven't dealt with this. I really haven't forgiven them. So I have to keep short accounts. That's how Paul describes it. I have to keep short accounts that when someone offends me, I am going to move to a place where I forgive them, and then I promise not to bring it up with them again. Additionally, my second promise is that I promise I will not bring it up with others. Right? It doesn't have value if I say I forgive you, and then I don't bring it up with you, but then I walk to my friend group and I'm like, do you remember? They did, can you believe? Right? That thing is still eating away at my heart if that's my position, that I am bringing it up with other people. And so if I'm going to forgive, I promise that I won't bring it up with you. I promise I won't bring it up with others, but here's the hard one. Those are the easy ones. Here's the hard one. I also make the promise to you that I will not bring up your offense to myself. Because what happens often is I may not verbally put it out there for other people, but as I approach them, I'm going, you remember when they did that? That thing, man, like put up your guard, protect yourself. Like, I don't know, there's something, they might do it again, right? If that recording is playing in my head, have I truly offered them the forgiveness that Christ offered me on the cross? And I would say the answer is probably no. Again, back to Proverbs. I love me some Proverbs. Proverbs 17:9. He who forgives an offense seeks love, but he who repeats a matter alienates a friend. You see, when I forgive someone, I am seeking love, but if I keep repeating that matter, whether it's in my head, to others, or to them, I am alienating a relationship. Now, forgiveness is really hard, and it's very easy for people to have the thought process, well, it's awesome that you say forgive, but you don't know what someone has said to me or done to me. Or you say forgive, and Jesus said forgive, but let's be honest, that's Jesus, and like, I can't live up to what that is. The reality is, though, if you say I am a Christian, if you have signed up and said, I bow my knee to Jesus, he is the Lord of my life, then it's not optional. Like you don't have an option at that point to forgive or not forgive. That is what you are called to. Think of it this way. When I become a Christian, I am called a child of God. I am called a friend to God. I am called a representative. Paul uses the word ambassador. I am an ambassador of Jesus. If I was the ambassador of the United States to Russia, I don't walk into the Kremlin and start dropping all my opinions and what I want to say, and this is how I think it needs to go down. Because as an ambassador, I represent the president. And the president doesn't just make me an ambassador. He tells me what I am to say, what I am to do, how I am to do it. And because I represent him, I submit to that authority. So when I walk into the Kremlin, I say the exact words, in the exact tone, the exact way that I was told to do it. If we are ambassadors of Jesus to the world, then we are to do what he has told us to do, the way he's told us to do it, and how he's told us to do it. That's what it means to be a Christ follower. Paul writes in Ephesians 4 this, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. Wait a minute, you mean I have to forgive people in the same way that Jesus forgave me on the cross? And it's just like universal, that's what I have to do. That's what he says. Colossians 3 says it this way, bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. Bummer. Don't like that. That's hard. But that's what we're commanded to do. We are commanded to forgive people that have offended. I love how it says in Colossians, you forgive someone. Like anyone? Like if I'm frustrated with a politician, I actually have to forgive that politician for the things that I think they've done wrong? That seems to be what it's saying, someone. We are called to forgive the way God forgave us. And the crazy thing is, that's the moment in that friendship that you go deeper. You see, if you deal with the conflict well and you ultimately get to that point of forgiveness, that friendship just goes to a whole nother level of depth. And that's the point where people get afraid or they walk away or they bail on a friendship because that's hard. And I don't deny that it's hard. I'm not saying it's not hard. I'm just saying it's what we're called to. So, make it safe, speak directly, find a place to get to forgiveness, and finally, the fourth principle is move on. There has to be a path forward. I love how Jesus does this with Peter. He says, feed my sheep, feed my lambs, feed my sheep. Then he says, follow me. Peter, I have forgiven you. The relationship is restored. Here's the path forward, Peter. I want you to feed my sheep. I want you to follow me. That's the plan now moving forward. I think that's where we struggle at times. Like sometimes, like parents and kids get to this place, friends get to this place. Like relationships get to the point where we get to the place where we forgive, but we're like, now what? And it's kind of weird and awkward and like, how do we move forward? So just an example of how that might play out. You could be in a conversation that's intense and it's hard. And you might say to that person, you know, I've forgiven you. In my mind, this relationship is whole and restored and I want to move forward, I think one way we could move forward is, could we reconnect in 3 or 4 days? Could we grab coffee? I just want you to have some time to process this, and then let's come back, and if there's anything that's unsettled for you, let's talk about that. Like, what's the next step in your relationship once you move past the offense? And I think that's really important because, again, I just see out there's so many times you get to that dead end where it's like, well, I've forgiven them, but we're really not friends anymore. And I think that's the missing piece. What is the step you take to move forward? What's that next step? Think about Peter and Jesus. Jesus restores that relationship. He says, follow me. This is the very end of the Gospel of John. The very next thing we're going to pick up in the narrative is in Acts. And if you read the first 4 chapters of Acts, you are going to see Peter restored. You're going to see Peter standing in Jerusalem, proclaiming to the people he just denied Jesus to, that Jesus is Lord of his life. He's going to confront the people that put Jesus on the cross, and he is going to tell them that Jesus is Lord. Like, what kind of restoration occurs in a relationship when the very next thing that happens is the person that gets forgiven, that did the offending, is out there proclaiming how wonderful the person was that he offended? I also think later in his life, Peter wrote a few of the letters of the New Testament. And I read this one section and I just wonder in 1 Peter 4 if as he wrote this, he was actually thinking back to the moment on the beach when Jesus forgave him. It says this, above all, love each other deeply because love covers a multitude of sins. You see, Peter recognized that his sin had been covered via Jesus' love, and that relationship was restored and depth was added to it. So I want to wrap up by asking you a question. And it may not be the most comfortable question you've been asked today. My apologies, but not really. The question I have for you is this. We've been talking about conflict. We've been talking about forgiveness. We've been talking about these things. As you sat here, as you listened online right now, was there a name that popped in your head? Was there someone that you were thinking, oh man, yeah, that relationship struggle, that relationship is broken, that relationship needs healing? Because if that's the case, then I would hope that you recognize the Spirit of God working in you to say, hey, maybe I need to step out here and enter into one of these hard conversations. But I want you to do that with some skill. I want you to do that. I want you to make that environment safe. I want you to check your motivation as you walk into that and make sure that environment's going to be safe. I want you to speak directly. I want you to be candid and honest with the hurt that either you feel or that you caused. And at the same time, do that in the most respectful, loving, and engaging way that you can. I want you, as you think about that, to be looking out to how can I get to the place of forgiveness or the place where I need to ask for forgiveness? How do I get to that place? And then how do I then make that decision and make those promises and keep those promises moving forward? And then ultimately, what is the next step? How do we move past this in our relationship to a better place? Will you pray with me? Father God, I am thankful that you have called us to be your children, your ambassadors, your representatives, and I pray that you would help us to deal with the conflict that we see in our lives. Help us to engage it well. Please empower us to do things supernaturally that, quite frankly, we're probably not very good at and we really don't want to do. But I just pray, Lord, that you would be the one that would inspire us to act and help us to do it in a way that is winsome and loving to those in and around us. Help us to not bail on the friendships and relationships that we have because we've been offended, because we've been hurt. Help us to step into that uncomfortable place. Help us to love them well and help us ultimately to forgive as you have forgiven us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Shoot, 2, you're live.
Can you re-trigger start worship? Yep.
Ready. Ready, 6 and take.
What happened?
Ready.
Did I do something wrong?
And calling for return to our lives upon the altar, the things we did at first. You're clearing out the temple, and cleaning out the dirt, for we are your territory. Lord, we are your church. We are your people. You are our God. We are your temple. Make us holy like you are.
Ready, 6, and take. Ready, 1.
We see a holy nation, a flock to consecrate, a chosen generation, a people called to pray. So help us, God, to please you, where only you can see. For every moment matters in eternity. We are your people. You are our God. We are your temple. Make us holy like you are. We are your children. You set us apart. God, for your glory, make us holy like you are.
Ready, 6, and take. Ready, 1.
Mark your people with your presence. Make us a place where you delight to dwell. May we heed your hands' correction. Oh Lord, our shepherd, you do all things well. Your love as firm as it is tender. Your law is perfect and your judgment's true. As we run to be surrender, you will restore what we return to you. You are restoring as we anew. We are your people. You are our God. We are your temple. Make us holy like you are. We are your children. You set us apart. God, for your glory, make us holy like you are. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord our God. You're calling, we're coming. We're not walking, we're running. God, we need resurrender. So we resurrender. If you're calling, we're coming. We're not walking, we're running. God, we need resurrender. So we resurrender. If you're calling, we're coming. We're not walking, we're running. God, we need resurrender. So we resurrender. If you're calling, we're coming. We're not walking, we're running. God, we need resurrender. So we resurrender. If you're calling, we're coming. We're not walking. surrender. If you're calling, we're coming.
All right, remember Brian comes back out and hosts, and you're getting control of slides now.
So we surrender.
If you are new around here, just want to welcome you and say thanks for joining us on this Father's Day. We've got a Connect card that you can scan with your phone and take a look at, and we would just love to connect you and help you meet some people or just learn more about what Journey's about. Just outside these doors, there's a couple tables that do that as well. If you're a regular around here, we are thankful for you being part of this spiritual family. We want to remind you there's always 3 ways to give, and we need your support. Everything we do around here is through our family members. And then if you need prayer at the end of each end of the stage, there'll be some folks that would pray with you if you just need someone to pray with you or just need someone to talk to after the service. So happy Father's Day. We do have hot sauce out in the back.
Thanks everybody for singing.
It is
If
ready
you want a
for
hot wing, now
if
you can have a hot
are a
wing.
kid, you need your parents' permission to do that. And then everyone, don't touch your eyes after that stuff. It's nasty. So have a great week, Journey.
All right, go ahead and roll song credits. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate y'all.